I'm here with Nicolas Winding Refn, the director of Drive, which I think is honestly one of my favorite movies of 2011. It's so much fun, despite the fact that I had an accident on the way to get here. It's so much fun because it kind of reminds me in a lot of ways of various films that I've seen. One of the first ones that came to mind was To Live and Die in LA, which is one of my favorite 1980s kind of crime noir films. And then even maybe Shades of Bullet, movies like that. I guess let's talk a little bit about when you were putting this together, what were some of your influences in terms of the look and the feel of the film that you wanted to capture? Now Ryan was already a part of this when you came on board, so like what did you, I guess, bring to this project from your own perspective?
Well, I mean, Ryan basically had wanted me to make the movie, so it's a very similar situation to when Peter Yates was doing Bullet with Steve McQueen and wanted Peter Yates to do Bullet, or with Lee Marvin and wanted John Boorman to do Point Blank. So it was a very interesting marriage between us. And I guess my first visual kind of reference that I would show him and also the cameraman and everybody else was Scorpio Rising by Kenneth Anger. Now, Thomas Siegel, who shot the movie, I hired because he had been a photographer on Lucifer Rising, which was Kenneth Anger's last movie, as well as other many great films later on. So that was kind of like my first reference, was the whole Anger section of it.
Yeah. Well, and the opening of it, especially like with the titles and the music and everything, it definitely has kind of a throwback 1980s sort of feel to it. I'm assuming that was all a very conscious decision.
Well, it wasn't like I set out to do it. It's just I am from the 80s.
Right.
And taking that whole synthesizer Europop sound,
right,
and bringing it into the 80s to now, or it makes it kind of retro without being retro really. And of course that whole, the font itself was just something me and the editor found when we were just editing the movie as an interesting context. I think I stole it from Risky Business.
Yeah, it looks very familiar. Well, see, and I love that because to me, I'm a child of the 80s. And so for me, it's one of those things that it made me feel right at home. It made me feel like I was watching like this was a long lost cable movie that I really loved, or something. So
those were the days, huh?
Those were the days. Those were the great days. So but yeah, again, that's actually how I discovered To Live and Die in LA. Was I saw it on cable and I was like, wow, this is a great movie. I've never heard of it. And so I really hope this movie finds its place, because I really think it's like one of the best movies of the year. It's just one of those films that, I mean, in this day of seeing all these sequels and prequels and remakes and everything, this really does seem to kind of stand apart. It's got a lot of heart to it. It's dark, and I love dark films. And that was something I wanted to ask you about. Was there ever a decision in terms of like how dark can we make this, or like how rough can we go on the violence? Was that something that you guys had to talk about and find like a happy medium?
No, I mean, I was very specific about the violence having to be very extreme, but it would only work if I made the first half very champagne.
Right.
So it was a bit like, Pretty in Pink with a head smash. So the whole idea was to make it fairy tale, which in the beginning would be very romantic and very pure and innocent, very childish in a way. And the second half would be obviously about a man who's psychotic also. But he protects innocence. So in a way, the film is about a superhero in the making.
Yeah, it actually gave me that sense of like a comic book movie. And I think that's one of the interesting things. I don't know if I would ever tell somebody it's like a comic book, but it definitely does have that sensibility of a comic book. I think I wouldn't tell them because they'd go in expecting a superhero. But yeah, it was.
He does wear a nice suit.
He does, and he has the scorpion on his back. Yeah,
so it's almost there.
And I love the aspect that when things do kind of start going down a dark path, there's little touches like the fact that he has blood on his jacket and just leaves it there. There's things like that I thought really worked well for the film. Now I know a lot of people are talking about what a great cast this is and how you have Ryan Gosling, Carey Mulligan, Albert Brooks, Ron Perlman. It's a really nice mix of people, and I love seeing Ron Perlman and especially Albert Brooks playing a bad guy. When you have a cast like that, how much time is spent, telling people you know, like, okay, this is what I want you to do with it, or is it mostly just kind of like, this is your character, let me see what you can do with it? I mean, how much, I guess, work is involved with those?
Well, that I work with actors is that I usually spend a lot of time asking them what they would like to do
Mm-hmm.
before I say anything. Because A, it shows their involvement and commitment to what they do, and B, maybe they have a really good idea that we can use.
Yeah.
And so the way that I would approach it was that I would spend a lot of time with Albert by himself, coming up with the whole movie producer storyline, which we kind of created together. And then same with Ron Perlman, trying to make his character more fleshed out. And Christian Henricks, and you each make sessions with them individually, and then you slowly drag them into sessions where like Ron Perlman, Bryan Cranston, Albert Brooke would come to my house, and we would all improvise the scenes together and write things down. And like, for example, the death of Bryan Cranston was his own idea of how he would die.
Yeah, that was very interesting.
So that way, I'm very open to hear what people say. You know, acting is it's a tough craft, and directing is very easy.
Mm-hmm.
You just inspire everybody else to give their best, and then you can pick and choose them.
I think when you have a perfect mix like that, that's what ends up giving you what I think is almost a perfect film, because I think this is probably one of the best films I've seen this year, and I'm not just saying that because I'm talking to you. I really did.
What else is on the list?
Oh my God, there was one that was a real sort of off the wall one, and now I can't think of what it is. I was just thinking about this on the way over here. I'm sorry, I'm all frazzled. It'll come to me in a second. The last question I want to ask you, because we have to wrap this up, is what's coming up next for you? I know you had said you were thinking about working with Ryan again.
Well, Ryan and I are doing Only God Forgives
Mhm.
after Christmas, and then we're doing Logan's Run.
That's going to be great.
So,
Can you tell us anything about what your idea is for Logan's Run, like in terms of how you would modernize that?
it's in the works, and I have come up with something very interesting, and I'm hoping it will all. I mean, I plan on having a script by Christmas,
Mm-hmm.
which hopefully Warner Brothers will like. If they do, you know, we start prep.
I'm excited. Bring it to Dallas. Come back to Dallas and promote it.
That is an option. That's very much not. I just won't shoot at the same shopping mall. But if the studios are here, I think that at that time it all becomes about.
Oh, I
10 cents.
thought it too. Attack the Block. That was one of my favorites of the year. And Bellflower. Again, two kind of
I heard
low-
Bellflower.
lower
I haven't
budget.
seen the one. I heard Bellflower is supposed to be terrific.
Yeah, it's $17,000. It's
Yeah.
amazing. So, Nicolas Winding Refn, and the movie is Drive. I highly recommend you see it. If you don't, you're an idiot. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you, man.
It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm glad I made it here in one piece.
Yeah, One Piece.